and I hope that's okay. And this is mostly so that we can utilize the information that is shared in this workshop with others who aren't able to make it, likely due to conflicting meetings or time zones or what have you. So I just wanted to let you all know that you are being recorded, but your chat and everything will not be uploaded. So that will not be something that is shared publicly. Don't worry about that. Okay, I will attempt to share my screen. Sorry, my dogs are being very distracting to me. I hope that they're not being distracting to you. It's amazing how you cannot think when there's like a very large dog barking. Okay, sure. So I think you should be able to see my screen now.
Yes, we can see it.
Thank you for verbally saying that, because of course all the windows disappear. So I'm going to start with a very simple overview of the Belmont Forum, and the two calls that we have open now, our collaborative research actions, are the climate, environment, and health call with this symbol, as well as the climate and cultural heritage call. And so those are the two calls that we can talk specifics about, but most of what I will say, as well as what Johnny is going to provide later, are things that will be applicable to all collaborative research action calls. So for today, just a brief agenda. We're going to start with a little bit of background and history of what the Belmont Forum is, in case you're not familiar. We're going to talk about the eligibility requirements for the two different collaborative research actions that are open right now that I just mentioned. We're going to talk about the fact that there's this annex comparison tool and the fact that it's important to look at annexes. And I know that we have an annex workshop that's uploaded to our website if you want more information about that. And finally, we're going to have our friend Johnny Erickson from Lux discuss BFgo, which is the online system that you submit your registration and proposals forms to. So what is the Belmont Forum? So the Belmont Forum is made up of members around the world. So we have over 35 members, which represent over 55 countries. One thing that's different about the Belmont Forum as compared to a lot of organizations that you may associate us with is that we're institutional based. So we're not based with, on each country does not have a member. We can have multiple members from a given country based on funding organizations. And moreover, we're essentially a group of the willing, as Maria would like to say. And so these members have come together to say, yes, we want to facilitate funding of these projects that address various issues associated with global environmental change. And we've been able to do this and partnered with many resource organizations as well as different funders. So each call can have a series of funders that aren't even members to the Belmont Forum. So for example, if you look at the funders for the climate, environment, and health call, it's a very long list, but many of them are also in kind. So they're providing data or workshops, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. But we've run over 19 collaborative research actions over the last 12 years, and this has funded significant amounts of science and research that is societally based and hopefully, and we have seen evidence of making action in in the world. And so the idea of the Belmont Forum is that we're a single point for proposal submission. So we craft the collaborative research action, and then we have one system where you submit your proposal, and we then make a decision collectively based on a panel of experts that is nominated from the different funding agencies that are part of the call. And this way we have a very transdisciplinary review, i.e. we have lots of disciplines that are represented, as well as experts in the variety of fields that the call is addressing. We're doing it in a collaborative process from the beginning, and we're making one decision that is then transmitted to your funding agency that will give you the money. And so this means that the money isn't passing over borders, but we're facilitating multilateral calls. And this means that we're also able to build a community of practice. So that's something that's very important to us. So just because we have funded a project that you are involved in, we are still interested in supporting you throughout the life of that project and helping connect you with the other projects in the call. And so we do this mostly through these collaborative research actions, which I've mentioned. And this is very much guided by the Belmont Challenge, which leads us to try to understand, mitigate, and adapt to the multitude of global environmental challenges that are happening at the moment. Our mission is to really accelerate the delivery of this environmental research by providing this flexible funding platform. And each of our collaborative research actions, we believe, is addressing a societally relevant challenge, right? And we're doing this by gathering experts together and funders together and stakeholders to create the calls. And now we are asking you, the researchers, to get together and propose exciting research for us to fund. And so this can take a significant period of time. So any time from 6 months to 1 year to even craft the beginning or the kernel of a call. And then we take it out to members, funders, experts like yourselves, et cetera, for up to a year before we get to the point where we have a call text. And so we're now at this last period, which is very exciting, where we are launching these calls and you all are able to apply to these funds. And so, like I mentioned, the Belmont Forum is not a common pot of funding or monies. It is, in fact, a way that we can make one decision that can then be transmitted across funding agencies that serve various countries and various institutions. And so this means that we work within the specific mechanisms of each country's or each institutional's guidelines. And so while it's a single proposal that goes through one peer review process, the annexes within the call, which are all available online, really tell you as the researcher what is eligible for funding. So some funding agencies can only fund basic research, and you cannot ask for a networking call, right? You can't ask for funding under that. But some institutions don't have funding, but they might have a data set. Some institutions might only be funding a few of the themes within the call and not all of the call. So it's very important to look at the specific annexes that are particular to you and where you sit in the world and what you and your team are eligible for. So all projects must include researchers from at least 3 different countries seeking funding from 3 different funding sources. All of the funding sources are identified within the call. So this international research consortium must be transdisciplinary. And what we mean by this is it must include natural scientists, social scientists, as well as societal partners. So these societal partners can be, civic groups, they can be local government officials, they can be indigenous community collectives, they can be lots of groups, but we need to have at least one identified and involved in the project from the proposal stage. So like I was just saying, all partners need to be involved with the project from the very beginning. And this is important because it gets to the idea of co-production and the idea that we are working with society and not and doing research that is driven by the needs of the people on the ground. So researchers that are from countries or agencies or institutions that do not have funding available to them within annexes are still eligible to participate as part of a group, but they must bring their own funding. So this happens through an in-kind contribution. And this is a fairly common thing to happen across our research calls. So there is a little bit of a difference between the eligibility for the two different CRAs that we have open right now, and I want to make this clear. So for the climate, environment, and health call, we need 3 researchers, 3 countries, and 3 partner organizations. And so when this is defined as a natural scientist, social scientist, and societal partner. For the climate cultural heritage call, they have a slightly higher requirement. So they have 3 researchers plus a societal partner. So this means that your team has 4 individuals or teams represented from the beginning. Again, 3 countries eligible for funding and 3 partner organizations for the different funding sources. So it's important, like I mentioned, to look at the annexes, and for the climate, environment, and health call, because there are so many countries involved, over 120, we actually have an annex comparison tool that is really handy for you to use. So I'll get to that in a bit, but the annex requirements tell you what country is supported, what type of research or institutions are supported, how you can use your funds, the proposal requirements, as well as simultaneous submission and point of contact. So for example, if you're in the United States and you're submitting to the Belmont Forum, you're also, once you are funded, or once that decision has been made, you are going to have to turn around and submit something to the National Science Foundation. And thus, the National Science Foundation has agreed to accept your proposal, but your proposal must meet their guidelines. And so this is true for every single one of our funders. And so it's very, very important to read these annexes. As I used to tell my students, I didn't write the syllabus just for the fun of it, right? Those directions are really critical. And so we also have data requirements, and this is, again, something that you need to discuss from the very beginning of your proposal, even in the registration or pre-proposal phase. So your data needs to be discoverable, accessible, understandable, and basically you need to manage it and protect it from loss. And so this is to adhere to FAIR data guidelines and the Belmont Forum's pledge to have all of its research happen in an open science context as much as possible. And so, like I said, there's an annex comparison tool. If you go to the climate, environment, and health call on, and we can put this link in the chat, you will be able to click on the annex comparison tool, and it allows you to compare multiple countries or institutions requirements. And so it can be really handy. So for example, if you were eligible for funding from Future Earth, the US National Science Foundation, and the UKRI, so in the UK, you could compare these annexes, and you can see that Future Earth supports many countries, right? So these are a very long list of countries, mostly low and middle income countries, while the U.S. National Science Foundation supports the U.S., Guam, and Puerto Rico, and the UKRI only supports the United Kingdom. I shouldn't have said only. They support all the scientists in the United Kingdom. So this is just a very simple comparison, but you can see that the eligible participants and descriptions can be quite extensive. And I really encourage you to read this because often there is helpful information in there. And so we also have in-kind support. So this is specified in the annexes, and this could be your ability to use a core facility at a university. It could be help in using publicly available, but not always the most accessible data, right? I have definitely been in this situation where I'm like, well, it's publicly available, but I have no idea how to like get at it or process it. So we have institutions that are willing to provide that sort of support through training. We also have networking opportunities. Some institutions are providing lab space so you can do whatever analyses that you need. Some institutions can provide logistics, and I wouldn't dismiss this. This can be incredibly helpful, whether it's hosting a meeting, providing you some help with travel. This can be really key in making these international collaborations work. And we also have subject matter experts, right? So folks that you can connect with if you have questions, or, your Googling has led you to a dead end and you need to talk to someone else. So we have lots of ways of trying to improve your proposals through these in-kind support. So now I'm going to stop sharing and ask if there are any questions right now, but if you could just raise your hand, but if not, I'm going to give it over to Johnny and BFgo. And
I think we did have one question come in the chat. Says,
do all three different funding sources provide financial support? That is a very good question. So typically there are three different funding categories, but I believe that technically that is not required. But you do need to have support from three different agencies. But I think you need to read the annexes very carefully. And I would hesitate to suggest that you could do a truly multilateral co-produced call if only one of you is getting paid to do your work. So that's the biggest challenge I see in thinking about only having one monetary funder, right? It suggests that only one researchers in one country are getting reimbursed or for their fund. Oh, thank you. Ben's going to save me. Ben, please answer that question.
No, yeah, just to specify for the, I don't know if this question related to the CCH call or the CHE call, but for the CCH call, the cultural heritage one, each partner must request funding from a funding organization. So each actually academic partner must request funding.
Right.
So each one of the three academic partners must request funding from one of the 15 funding organizations. And the third partner can join in an in-kind or self-funded capacity.
Yeah, so to repeat what Ben said, thank you for that clarification. And to address the question in the chat, it's not that you as an individual need to be eligible for funding from three different countries, but you need to create a team that is eligible for funding from three different funding institutions, right? So each of the researchers, and ideally the societal partner, though this is often challenging given the funding landscape. And we're working on that. That was something brought up a lot last week, but you need to have funding coming in to support the researchers. And so how do you validate the participation of a country from the researcher involved or the stakeholders or both? Both. But that's why the key is the funding agencies. So you need to have, if you have, for example, if you are an economist and you're working with a infectious disease specialist, as well as, I don't know, someone who is, you know, an NGO working in an urban area to reduce, you know, airborne illness, right? You would need to have funders for each of those people, and they would need to be from different countries or different institutions, which are typically in different countries. And then, so for the stakeholders on the BFgo platform, you can either list an organization as a word seeking or a stakeholder, but not both. If the stakeholders are receiving funding, how will the reviewers identify them? Yeah, so this, Kelly, thank you for bringing this up. This is something that it's like an unfortunate mistake in the system. So for right now, please put them in so that they can have the funding. And then in the text, just make it clear that they're stakeholders or a societal partner. So this is something we need to address in the system. And someone else has brought this up, and I just don't think it's fixed yet. Ben has his hand raised.
Yeah, I just want to make sure there's no confusion. I can only speak for the CCH call, but for going back to the question about how we validate each country, so what really matters there is that there are 3 academic teams seeking funding from 3 different funding organizations among the 15 funding organizations participating in the call that receive funding. So 3 being a minimum, actually. So there can be more, but 3 minimum. And then stakeholders may or may not receive funding. It doesn't count towards that requirement of involving 3 minimum academic partners receiving funding. I hope that helps clarifying. But if there are any questions about eligibility for this call, feel free to direct them to our email, which I'll drop in the chat actually.
Oh, thank you, Benjamin. And Meryl, I'm going to get to you, but I'm going to repeat what Benjamin said. So for both calls, but the difference between the CCH call, the Climate and Cultural Heritage call, I apologize for using acronyms, versus the Climate, Environment, and Health call, is that the Climate, Environment, and Health call has many more funders available, but there is a slightly lower requirement for your team. So for the Climate, Environment, and Health call, you need to have 3 participants identified. 1 needs to be a natural scientist, 1 needs to be a social scientist or humanist, and 1 needs to be a societal partner. And so in this case, you need to have 3 funders identified, and these funders need to represent different parts of the globe, right? Different countries. For the Climate and Cultural Heritage call, we have a slightly higher requirement where we need 3 researchers, all funded by different institutions, i.e. different countries in almost all cases, I think, and plus a societal partner that could be funded or could come from an in-kind contribution. So so that is that's the difference between the 2. And so, yeah, so Ben has added a contact piece in the chat for if you have specific eligibility questions about your team, you should just contact them at that email, either directly at ANR or Meryl, do you want to say something?
Yeah, thanks. I just wanted to refer back to one of the questions in the chat. Somebody says it's not very clear if the project needs to have 3 funding agencies or that they should be eligible for 3 funding agencies. That last thing is not the case. So researchers, this is for the climate and cultural heritage call, I have to specify.
Well, it's true for both. It's true for both, Meryl.
It's true for both. So each researcher needs to be eligible according to the criteria from the funding agency in that country. So a Dutch researcher applying for Dutch funding needs to comply with the Dutch regulations in the national annex. Same goes for a French researcher who applies to A&R for funding. But the French researcher does not have to comply with the Dutch regulations. So you comply with the regulations from the funding agency that you apply to in your country. And then you work together with other researchers, but you don't have to comply to conditions with all 3 funding partners, because that would make it really complicated. It's already complicated enough. I hope that cleared something up.
Yeah, and for those of you who are thinking, oh my gosh, this is so complicated. Yes, it is complicated, which is why we have these moments so you can ask questions. But I strongly encourage you to reach out to us and ask specific questions about your specific team, because often that is the most efficient way of going about it. And if you and I can put in Brian and myself are the ones who answer the info@belmontforum.org email. So you can always email us about this. And if we don't have the answer, we can reach out to program officers in these various agencies like Ben and Meryl, who can help us clarify. Does anyone else have any questions about the overly confusing process that maybe I went through too quickly? But I think it actually will make more sense once Johnny introduces the system, but I'm not sure if maybe that's wishful thinking on my part. Any other questions though? Please continue to add them to chat. I'm gonna have Johnny start sharing his screen. I believe I gave him that allowance.
All right, thanks, Becca. I will share my screen. Let's share. Should be able to see my screen now.
Looks good.
Okay, so I'm going to take you through the Belmont Forum technology infrastructure. We'll start at the Belmont Forum website, and then we'll go into BFgo and spend quite a bit of time there. Feel free to interrupt me if you have questions as we're going, or we can have a Q&A session, and we can have this Q&A session at the end. This is belmontforum.org. This is where you would go to find out information about the CRAs. This is where most of the publicly facing information is available. In particular, Becca and Ben have both mentioned, and Meryl, the CRAs page. This is where our opportunities are. Belmont Forum calls opportunities collaborative research actions. You click on this, you can see the open CRAs, all CRAs, and if you're interested, there's now a section on scoping. So CRAs that the Belmont Forum is considering if you want to be involved in that. So I'm going to click on CRAs. The open CRAs are here at the top. So for this call, we have Climate, Environment, Health 2 and Climate and Cultural Heritage. You can click on these and they will drop you to the appropriate section down below. All the CRAs that we've ever had are listed here. You just click on the short name for whichever call you're interested in, and it will tell you about the call. And then there'll be resources, particularly the call documents. This is where you read what the call requirements are. You can download both proposal and registration forms, as well as all the annexes. And then background in the application process. Something that CEH2 has been piloting is the annex comparison tool, which Becca showed you earlier. That is available down in the resources for CEH2 under call documents. We've also put the link in the text of this, in the chats of this presentation. So if you want to look at that, you click here. The Belmont Forum calls can be split into two. They can have a registration phase and a proposal phase, or they can just go straight to full proposals. So if they have a registration phase, you'll need to register your idea. You'll need to say you're interested in the proposal. And then those who qualify, or those who the theme program office and the group of program coordinators determine are eligible, will invite the eligible proposers to the next phase. All Belmont Forum proposals are submitted through the BFgo system. You can either get there by going to bfgo.org, or from Belmont Forum, click on the little green leaf icon. That will take you straight there. That's the belmontforum.org. That's the main public website. The application site is bfgo.org. It again lists the CRAs. It links back to belmontforum.org and call documents and information there. When you get here, you're going to want to create a new user. Click on the new user button. This gives you instructions on how to create your account, first name, last name, phone number, etc. And check that you have accepted the terms and conditions. There is a privacy and legal statement here, which is fairly long, but it is meant to be, but it should be GDPR compliant. So if you're in Europe and have concerns about privacy, it also covers the United States, and I believe China has said that it covers their privacy initiatives as well. So read that, accept your terms and conditions, create your account. Should you ever need to reset your password, and a lot of people do, there's this forgot password button. Just click on that, type in your email address and click reset. It will send you a new password. So once you're set, you're ready to go, you can log in with your username and password. I'm already logged in as a different user. Once you click login, you'll come to the applications page. So let's talk a little bit about the navigation of the site. Across the top are the main things you can do with your account. So this role has the applications. You can come into account if you need to reset your password or change your name, and then help will give you where to go to get information. Importantly, info@belmontforum.org if you have programmatic questions. So all the questions about who qualifies, how many partners do you need, that goes to info. If you have questions about the system, such as something is not behaving correctly, or you can't figure out a categorization, or whatever the technical question is, you can send those to help@bfgo.org. So back to the applications. Here's all the applications. Currently, it shows every application that you have ever submitted or started. Very important on this page, there's application submitted tag here. If it says unsubmitted, your application has not been submitted. BFgo allows you to retract your application up until the deadline. This has bitten researchers in the past. They have submitted, retracted, and forgotten to resubmit. That creates a major problem when they're done with their proposal, they've submitted, they retracted, and if they don't resubmit, they don't qualify. So all that work has gone to waste. So make sure that you have a status here. It will tell you the time it was submitted. It will also link to the file as the reviewers will see it. So very important, make sure you have submitted your application. A little more about the navigation on this page. All of our pages have instructions at the top. They're all hidden by default, just to help ease you through the system. There are a few critical instructions that are not hidden, but if you need more information about a page, just click show hide next to the instructions, and that will drop down that menu. As I said before, Belmont Forum proposals can have two phases, a registration and a proposal phase, or just a full proposal phase. Right now, CEH2 is in its registration phase. I've already started an application here. If I hadn't, it would say start instead of edit. Same with CCH. So I'll take you through the registration, and then I'll take you through a proposal. So another thing about the registrations roll up into the full proposal. So any information you provide in the registration phase is forwarded when the proposal is invited, when the researcher is invited to the full proposal phase. Also, the consortium lead for each project is responsible for entering the proposal. That's so that we know that the consortium lead has direct hands-on knowledge of the information. They pulled together the information. They are in charge of hitting the submit button. Really, they should be the only ones entering data into BFgo, except for personal information, and we'll get to that in a second. So with that said, let's look at a registration. All of these forms match the templates that are available on belmontform.org. So you should see a very close relationship. Use the Word document templates that are on belmontform.org to formulate your proposals. It will allow you to theme everything, and then hopefully when you come to BFgo, it's just a lot of copy and pasting back and forth. Again, instructions at the top give you more information about what's below. So project information, the title, a short name or unique acronym for your project, the themes that may cover, start and end dates. The system will calculate duration based on what you put in there, and then text boxes. Formulate your responses again in that template that's on belmontform.org, and just paste them in here. The system will give you a character count, so you know how many, so that you know you're within the limits. Rationale, keywords, suggested reviewers, etc. You'll see a lot of save buttons. That's important. The system does not save your answer until you click save. So if you're working on this page and you forget to click save and you go somewhere else, or your session times out, those answers won't get recorded. So there's lots of save buttons, and hopefully encouraging you to use them. So project information, organizations. Here's where you list all the organizations involved with your proposal. So researchers are associated with the organizations. You first need to enter your organizations before you can enter your personnel. Otherwise, you won't be able to tie them together. So you can add a new organization or edit existing organizations. You provide name of it if there's a short acronym related to it. The type, whether it's an academic institution, a foundation, an NGO, etc. The role in the project, that's if it's an organization that intends to receive funding, or if it's in-kind supporting or fully self-financed, and then contact information. Personnel. So the personnel section is the one area, if you're going to start your is the one area where other people have to interact with your proposal. Because of that, it's probably important to get this started very early on. All the rest of it you can formulate in the templates provided on belmontform.org. But for personnel, in order to be more GDPR compliant, we have individuals can go in and enter their own details. Basically, that's what this invitation says. So you can either give them this invitation link, or you can type in their email address in the system and click save, and it will send them an email with that link. When a person goes to that link, they will see contribute to application. It will give them a passcode. It will ask for their consent, and they can fill out their information. And that includes contact information, their involvement in the project, their research disciplines, experience, career level, publications, and some demographic information. Once they save that, it will populate fields back. So I've switched back to the application. It will populate fields back in the application. So you can see that I've added myself here, my role, etc. And then I've added my name here. And then you can set them as their role. So the consortium lead would come in and set them as partner PI, would set their organization, whether or not they're a contact point, and would choose the funding agency. So the person provides their details about themselves. The consortium lead provides their details about how they're interfacing with the project team, so what their role is. Importantly, once a person saves their information, they get a new code. It's not the same as the join code. They have this edit code. This code allows them to go back in and edit this information. Even though The contribute to application page tells them that code. Once they click save, it will tell them that code. Researchers will forget this. So if you need to send them a new code, don't send them the join link again, or you're going to have to redo all their information. Send them this edit code. That's the one they should use to edit their information. All right. So we have our researchers in. Now we need to provide a provisional funding plan for the registration phase. You'll list all your researchers will be listed here. You can click edit and it will drop down budget tables for this. Again, for provisional, for the registration phase, we just want a general understanding of what their yearly budget is. Enter it in and click save. And it will populate the funding requests here, or populate which funding agencies you're requesting funds from. As Becca said, data management is important to the Belmont Forum. It's at every phase of the proposal and project. It should be considered. For the registration phase, we're just asking about expected outputs. And then proposal elements. For this registration, there aren't any elements required, so you can just skip it. And then the submit button, or the submit page. The submit page looks at all the pieces you've provided and shows you what is incomplete, so what the system considers is missing. For instance, here project information is missing and provides what information is missing from project information. It also provides a link to that page, so you can click on that, go back to there and fill out the missing sections. Below the status, you will see the actual application. This is what it will look like to the reviewers when they review it. Very important to come in here and read this. Don't just assume that, oh, it's here. Go through, read it, make sure it presents as you would like it to present. If it doesn't, go back and modify your responses. Oftentimes, Microsoft Word introduces weird characters, highlighting things differently. You get weird spaces and things. So just, if you want it to read more professionally, make sure you go through and try to catch any of those errors. Once you have everything in, it will allow you to submit. As you can see, this is incomplete, so I can't submit. When you do click submit, it will come up and say generating PDF. There'll be a banner here. Wait for that to complete. Then come back to your applications page. Again, you will see that your application should have a submitted date, and you will be able to download the file, either the registration or the application file. Make sure you download that. That's your copy. That's what the reviewer will see. So make sure to download it. That's what you can share with your team. So that's a registration. For a full proposal, again, all the information from registration will roll forward to it. But it has a lot more details and things to capture. So same organization, same plan. I'll quickly go through this because I think a lot of it is the same. So project information remains the same. Organizations is the same. Personnel information is the same. People shouldn't have to come back in and provide their details again. They've already provided it in the registration phase. Funding plan changes. Here it asks for a lot more detail about how money is planned to be spent in each of the categories, external funding and support. The data management section also changes. It expands into more questions about how you plan to be in conformance with the data management policies, who the personnel is in charge of it, and what's your plans for making the data available post-project. And importantly, the proposal elements is now populated. The system takes, again, instructions at the top. So click show hide to get more information about each of these proposal elements. The system only allows PDF uploads. So for executive summary, project description, plan, etc., you're going to click choose file, go to your system and download a PDF or upload a PDF, and then click save. You can do each of them one at a time and click save, or you do all in one, upload all of them and click save. Important, beyond choosing a file, you have to click save. So it won't upload to our system until you click save. So you formulate all those documents, add them here and save them. And then you click on submit. Again, submit tells you everything in your proposal that's missing. In this case, it's quite a bit. Then it shows you the project the application. So you, again, go through, review it, make sure it reads as you would like. And then you click submit. When you click submit, it's going to take all of those elements. It's going to take all the attachments, the proposal, it's going to take all the parts of the proposal and the proposal elements and bundle them all into a single PDF. So this might take a minute or two because it's adding all that stuff together. And it will, again, lock your view with a thing that says generating proposal, and it will submit. You'll see it here, application submitted date, and then the file to download again. Final note, if you retract it, you can retract and edit up until the deadline. If you retract it and you don't resubmit before the deadline, your application, your proposal, your registration is not going to be considered. So make sure if you retract, you resubmit. Make sure you have application submitted here. Make sure you have an application file that you can download. That's it for the proposals and registration. Again, if you need help, there's a help button on every BFgo page. Click on that, send an email to info@belmontforum.org with programmatic questions. The people here can send it to the TPO if they need, or they can answer it directly if you answer it directly. If you need system help, if you see something going weird in the system and for some reason you're like, that's information changed, or just something odd, send it to help@BFgo. If you have any questions about how the system works, again, send it to help@BFgo. I think that's it for me. I'm going to stop sharing now and we can take questions.
Does anyone have any questions for Johnny?
Yes, I have a question. Johnny, I am applying for the CEH2 call, and my all of the consortium partners have completed their information on the personnel page, but in every single case, the research areas did not save, so they are blank for everyone. And I don't know what happens because every other field is complete.
I'll look into that. I don't have an answer. That's research areas blank.
Thanks for raising this problem, Kelly. Every time we test it, but we never can find all the funny things. But so for those of you who are in the pre-proposal registration stage for climate, environment, and health, which I know is due next week, so makes sense that you would be here to get your questions answered. So that is very much an eligibility check, right? So I fully recognize what I think I'm reading correctly between the lines, where you want everything to be perfect because that's how I would want it to be. But what we need for this part is to make sure that your project idea is within the themes of the call, right? That you are meeting the eligibility requirements. And provide as much information as you can. You will get feedback. So obviously the more information you provide, the better. But the goal is to make the proposals better, right? So focus on making it clear that your idea and your team meet the requirements of the call. And then, add as much other information. I recognize that the boxes or the character limits are, they feel like a lot until all of a sudden you want twice as many. So it's just at least how it is for me when I'm filling out text boxes. But I don't want you to worry about formatting and those sorts of things, because I can guarantee you that is not something taken into account. So I don't know, Johnny, does that, right? Because a lot of the formatting gets like squashed, right? When you do this. You're muted.
Thanks. Yeah. So yeah, the ideally the reviewers shouldn't take formatting into into account. You should, but that said, the nicer it looks, the better. So you do have the opportunity to go back and edit those. I realize HTML and Word don't play well together. They never have. Do the best you can to make it look okay. I think most everybody understands who's reviewing these, that there's formatting issues in all these systems, regardless of in all of these systems, regardless of the program.
Does anyone else have any other questions? Johnny and I were like, how are we going to fill an hour? Look at it. We filled an hour. Thanks to you and your amazing questions. Ben, you're still here. Meryl, you're still here. Do you have any things to say about the climate and cultural heritage call specifically? Because I know that's the one that you're leading efforts on.
No, thanks, Rebecca. I think we're fine. It was clear, and if anyone has any questions, they can just reach out to us. Thanks for the presentation.
Okay, yeah. I mean, all of us. Oh, Meryl, did you want to say something?
Just that I have nothing to add what Ben just said. Just contact us if you have any questions. That's basically it. Thanks.
Meryl and Ben, can you put your contact info in, or the info, the email in the chat again, just for those of folks who like left and came back, or right, the chat disappears for everyone. So I really encourage you all to email us with specific questions. And I will say though that as one of the people who answers info@belmontforum.org, I am not checking that email constantly. So please do not rely upon it for like last minute help in terms of getting your proposals in. And that is also true for the help email. As it turns out, Johnny is not living and breathing BFgo all the time. And so he does. I mean, sometimes it seems like he doesn't stop working, but I would like to think that he stops working. So please, I don't know. I'm so bad. I always do these things to the last minute. So I feel the pain for all of you. I'm right there with you. But if you can, ask your questions early, because we are much better equipped to answer you during business hours than, 11:59 p.m. So any other questions? And Ben and Meryl have added contact info in the chat. Thanks for that. Maria.
Hi, thank you very much for all this info. I would like to ask a question that came up within my team. Some of the partners, the academic partners, are from Argentina, and they will be awarded by the IAI, right? And they asked me if if in the event of winning the award, the money in our country would be devaluated because of the peso value. So we didn't know how to manage that. I mean, should we ask the IAI? I mean, I understand Belmont Forum doesn't manage this.
Yeah, that is an excellent question. And I mean, I know, we have to worry about these conversion rates all the time because the way the Belmont Forum functions is by getting dues from different countries. And so that currency conversion can be very important. I do not have a clear answer for you, Maria, but if I'm going to put my email in the chat, and please email me, and I'm going to put you in touch with someone who can give you more information. Okay. But all of us at the Belmont Forum and IAI just spent the last 2 weeks in Panama, and it was amazing. But I know that there's a lot of people taking personal time right now. So hopefully we'll get the answer to you quickly. And if you need it really quickly, SRI is going to be held in Helsinki next year, and then the year after that in Chicago. So yes, that is correct. So I have to say, as someone who goes to a lot of conferences, I was a little skeptical of SRI, but it was truly amazing. It was such a different conference. And like, I facilitated an entire session in Spanish. I, as it may be clear, do not speak Spanish. So I used a translator the whole time, but I was so grateful for the space to, you know, allow people to speak the language that they're the most comfortable with. So back to someone asked about filling out these forms in Spanish. You know, this is something we're working on. We haven't gotten there yet, but it is definitely something that we are trying to address, because we recognize, especially as we try to engage researchers throughout Latin America, that by not accepting proposals in Spanish or Portuguese, we are leaving out, you know, 80% of the researchers, and we recognize that, and we're trying to fix it. But I'm guessing you all know it's not as easy as just being like, oh, magic wand. So I appreciate those suggestions though, and I really encourage you to keep making them, because that's how we become better. So I appreciate all the suggestions on how we can be more inclusive. And we recognize that the system is not transparent as much as we'd like it to be, but we've done our best, and we are always available to answer questions. So please do not hesitate to email me directly, or the info@belmontforum.org, or the emails that Ben and Meryl provided. So I'm going to stop the recording. I am